I'm gonna start again. There we go. Um, okay, what's the first thing you wanna bring up to people that you don't normally see?
The first thing about UFOs?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's plenty of evidence that they do exist, but um, and you know, like people can find evidence of it anywhere, but not all of it is going to be actual real crafts or aliens or
First, first of
specimens.
all,
But
first of all, as we all know, this is not a new subject. It's going back hundreds or thousands of years. Yeah,
yeah,
we have we have paintings in caves. Yeah, from thousands of years old, and the most known case in the newer days is probably the UFO battle in Nuremberg. Yeah, which was in 1561. Yeah, and 5 years later, in 1566, in Bale, yeah, in Switzerland, and they were reported in the there were written reports about that.
the Nuremberg.
So that's been 500 years ago.
Yeah. So
And
and we also have UFOs or um, craft-like craft-like symbols or indications on religious drawings as well. Uh,
yeah,
uh, from I don't know how old even. Um,
we have lots of
about I don't know. Let's say 1,600 years.
yeah, yeah. We have
And then you know, in more recent history, we have also, uh, for example, the oh, what's it called now again? The oh
the Aurora case, probably 1897 in USA, where a UFO crashed into a windmill. Yeah, and the dead bodies were buried on a uh, uh, cemetery. Yeah, first, and then they dug a couple of decades later. They dug this out. So that's been in 1897, very good known case in Aurora, USA. This is where the newer cases are starting. Yeah.
so that was is that around the time of the World War?
No, no, no. It was
Oh, oh, oh,
1897.
oh, 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 1800s.
You
Okay.
can look up in the internet the Aurora UFO case USA. There's lots of stuff about it. Yeah. They called the priest because there were two or three or four dead alien bodies. They were flying on a very low altitude. Probably they had a problem with their ship, and they crashed into a windmill. Yeah, and if you've seen the UFO Hunter series on YouTube with Bill Burns from the UFO magazine, they made a documentary about that, for example. It's very interesting.
Okay. Can I turn down the? I'm trying to set up some filters. No, effect filters. Sharpen.
We all know that these ancient people were very advanced. Yeah, they built pyramids thousands of years ago that we are not able to build today. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
use
yeah. For example, a really good
they-
book on how the pyramids were really built is the raw material, right?
Yeah, okay. You should look up, or everyone should look up the work of my friend Stephen Myers.
Stephen
Yeah,
Myers.
yeah, Stephen Myers, and he's his theory about how the pyramids were built is the best that I know of, with waterlocks, and his name is just Myers.
My.
M.
You can just type it to me if you
Mhm.
can, and I'll show it
So
up on the screen.
I'm starting my computer so I can work here and here.
Okay. Well, let's just wait then.
I'm sending you some stuff about it. I find it after our conversation, or maybe now when my computer is running. And he was speaking on over 100 interviews on radio channels in the United States and in Great Britain as well, I guess. And what I wanted to say, we are still not able today to reconstruct these pyramids. Yeah, and probably there was a catastrophe a couple of thousands of years ago. And most of the people think that those people who were able to construct all this are gone. Yeah, probably washed away or all that from the flood, but it is not. Yeah, I'm pretty much sure that they are still here. And imagine how advanced they were thousands of years ago, and how advanced they must be now. They were flying around in their times, probably with UFOs or Vimanas or cylinder ships, and
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
know.
a lot of mythology is kind of it could be argumented, or it could be argued that a lot of mythologies are based upon extraterrestrial encounters, right?
Yeah,
Like for
that's what
example,
we have.
for example, like Thor, as the in the uh, Nordic mythology, and like basically all of those gods were made up of either weather-related things or um,
Star related or cosmic related, yeah,
yeah,
or planet related.
and you could also let's see what's the word, speculate. You could also speculate that it isn't just our human interpretation that's coming through in those mythologies, that it could be something that extraterrestrials or ultra-terrestrials could have taught us to kind of navigate the science or the astrology aspect of our planet.
Yeah, it's to me, it's not mythology or myth. Yeah, these are not fantasy stories. What we have from the past. Yeah, they wrote down what they witnessing, or yeah, what was happening in these days. Very interesting is the Sumerian history, probably. Also the Egyptian and the Mayan as well. Yeah. If you look at all these artifacts, yeah, you say, oh yeah, these are all hoaxes. No, they are not. Probably some are, yeah, for sure, to make money with. But I've seen lots of stuff.
And when you start to realize that a lot of these religious or mythology stories are actually based in reality, then you kind of don't want to look at it anymore, right? Like it gets too much. I mean, it's
Probably some people are really afraid of the truth in this case. Yeah. And because there are lots of abductions going on, as we all know, also for many
hundreds and thousands of years.
it belongs to families. Yeah, if you were abducted, then probably your son is abducted, or your grandmother or your mother was abducted before. Yeah, and there's lots of cases from whole families where they were all involved in abduction cases throughout generations and generations. Yeah. So
And why exactly is that? I know the answer, but
we we have not much recordings or writings from abductions from hundreds of years ago. Yeah, because as we all know, mostly your memories about that will be erased from them.
yeah, I mean that's not entirely not that's entirely our own fault, though. I mean, um, a lot of libraries and important documents were destroyed intentionally.
Yeah, most of them went to Vatican. Yeah, and the library in Alexandria burned down. Yeah, where lots of stuff was stored.
And you know, like, and you aren't even allowed to, like, the things that are still available. You can't really look at those things unless you are uh, someone who is already in on the game and already are misinforming people and just making everything worse.
Yeah, another problem that we have is that probably most of the people who were abducted don't want to come forward with what they experienced. Yeah, for several reasons. Because as we all know, this is still a subject that will be ridiculed. Yeah, and so I guess there are more people involved in abduction cases who are not coming forward with than vice versa. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that reminds me. I saw an interview where you know what's his name now? The guy who runs the Basis show, the British guy.
Michael Johnson,
Yeah, Johnston. Yeah,
My friend Michael Johnson,
Miles Johnson. Yeah, I mean,
Michael Johnson from the UK.
yeah, Miles Johnston. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, I saw an interview with him, and there was a Norwegian lady, and the interview went on for about 2 hours, and she was describing everything really great. But then he had somebody with him. I don't really know how he's related to, or how she is related to this, but she was like helping interviewing her, and Miles was trying to get her to tell a story that was really hard for her to tell, like it was emotional stuff, and basically she started talking about how she was sexually abused, and then the other interviewer stopped her from saying that and said, like, you can't say stuff like this. You have to be really sure, and you have to be like, you have to prepare for this, and blah blah blah, and
Mm-hmm.
and she basically ruined the whole interview, and like just like beat her down because she wanted to say something that was hard, or something that was difficult for her to say. And she wasn't even in the scene. Like, she was like outside of the. She was like going to make dinner for her family or something, and she came back and heard the conversation between them two, and then just stopped them right in there, like right in the middle of it, and it was like really just wrong. Like, how do you do that stuff?
Yeah, okay. I guess I know who this woman was. Some kind of older woman with blonde hair.
Yeah.
I've seen her in several other documentaries talking on UFO TV, for example. Uh, and her cases are going back to the 70s and 80s, as far as I remember. Yeah, when she met a guy from the secret service.
Actually, this interview was the basis 93, and the third part of it at the end.
Okay, okay,
Her name was Lynn. The person who was interviewed was his name is Lynn.
okay.
So basically, she was telling her story about how her father somehow raped her, and that she was telling her that, and she was telling about like how it was the most disgusting and like the worst thing that ever happened to her, and then at the same time it was also the best thing that ever happened to her,
Okay.
uh, because because of that experience. And this is bringing me on to another subject, um, that she was she was telling about her experiences that were like out of body experiences.
Ah,
So basically, she was hinting at the possibility that while her father raped her, that she had these experiences that were out of body experiences,
yeah.
and
Um,
and also that her father was some uh, kind of like a handler, like a mind control handler,
yeah.
and that raises, like, if you just see it, if you just listen to that interview. I don't know if you have, but you can do it later. We can come back to it,
Yeah. But
but anyways, it really, just bringing me on to the subject of mind control. Um, is
if
that,
you
yeah? Go on.
if you have seen the interviews with Peter the Insider, yeah, from
Yeah,
the ACIO organization,
yeah,
he, he he's telling about this rape stuff, and why this had to be done, and it's necessary to some in some ways, even if he does not agree with this technique. Let me say it like this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the like one of the books you could read on that is by Fritz Springmeier. The title is just a second here. Um, the Illuminati formula used to create an undetectable total mind-controlled slave, where he describes that um, rape at an early age, or rape at all, is the most effective tool they have within mind control technology to get
Yeah.
to get the mind to experience such a traumatic experience that the brain or the personality split.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because basically because the brain wants to not deal with that information or the memory of that experience, and therefore just kind
This
of
is,
it pushes it into an area of the brain where it builds up a new kind of personality.
yeah.
And if you do that several times, you make the effect stronger, and by that you get a totally programmable personality.
Yeah. This is one of the methods that is used in the Montauk project as well, as we all know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Tell
Penny
us tell
Bradley,
us a little bit about the Montauk program for those who don't know what it is.
um,
Just
that's
a
what
short.
Penny Bradley told us, who has been to the Montauk project, or Stuart Swerdloff also. Yeah. And we have several other people who came forward who have been into the Montauk project. And for all the ones who want to go deeper into this Montauk project stuff, should watch the lectures from Stuart Swerdloff, yeah, who's been his grand uncle has been the first president of the Soviet Union, and Mikhail Sverdlov. Yeah.
Where were we?
So, and or watch the interview that I've done, or the interviews that other guys have done with Penny Bradley, for example. Yeah, he's describing this stuff also very good. Yeah, this Montauk project was first run in. It's placed on Long Island, which is belongs to New York. Yeah, and also Andrew Di Basaccio is talking about that.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was probably the first one.
Andrew.
Andrew, yeah.
Yeah, Andrew started talking about it 2007 or 2009, so he was one of the first ones who came forward, and he was also telling us about the jump room. Yeah, that is in Long Island, where you can use this elevator that teleports you to Mars. Yeah, and from there is a similar facility that brings you back. And another one of these jump rooms is placed probably in Antarctica. So we've got at least two of them, but there are more. One of the reasons that they invaded Iraq, yeah, with the Iraq War was not of because of oil or because of weapons of mass destruction, because there is a
Well, I mean, I'm just jumping in here. And now, in later years, we have found out that the reason for going to war with Iraq and with the weapons of mass destruction and stuff was completely debunked and completely proven false.
sure, yeah.
And the reason that I really went there was, what were you going to say?
Yeah, they stated on their own that there were no weapons of mass destruction. So there has to be obviously another reason for for all this stuff. Yeah. Um,
Well, I mean, one of the first things they did in the Iraq War was to destroy a library or a
yeah.
museum. No, I'm sorry, a museum.
Yeah. Yeah. Then they went to many ancient sites. Yeah. Roomed lots of stuff out, and as far as I am informed, there is a connection between this portal in Iraq and the one that's in the Uchegi Mountains in Romania. Yeah.
Okay, let me just. I think I have a map of that. Just
And, for all this kind of stuff, you have to watch the lectures of Peter Moon.
Peter
Yeah.
Moon. Okay.
Peter Moon is his name. I'm sending you the link later. The Uchegi Mountains. Very interesting what he's got to say about that, because there's probably an old library in these mountains, and you're not allowed, for sure, you're not allowed to go there. It's a military area, and it's not only the Romanian military there, there's also these guys from the US, for sure. Uh, because somehow many countries um, handle lots of their stuff over to the United States, as we all know. Uh, there was another case from a crashed UFO in a country in Africa in the 90s, yeah, which the government there couldn't handle, and then they called
Near Kenya.
they called
Where exactly in Africa?
in Africa the country I have forgotten. Probably what Botswana or Zimbabwe. I'm not quite sure.
After what I can find, um,
I have
there are
I have
two portal locations in Africa, where one of them is in Morocco, and the second one is in close to Kenya and Ta- Tana- Tanzania, between
okay.
Tanzania and Kenya.
Okay. So what I wanted to say is that they could not handle the UFO that crashed there, and they called the US, because there's a method where you can split this UFO from the outside in three pieces. Yeah? But that's how this stuff works. How to split this UFO into pieces from the outside. That's what only the Americans know, and for sure not these guys from Africa. And have to search for the country where it exactly was. One of my friends has a few files about that. And that a couple of years ago. Similar stuff happened happened in Mexico, yeah, where a UFO crashed close to the border of the United States, yeah, and the United States saw this UFO incoming on a high speed, yeah, and first they thought it would crash in their area, but it did not. and it crossed the border and came down in Mexico. And when they wanted to have a look with their black hawk, what's going on down there, and as far as it went, they saw lots of military personnel from the Mexicans lying around this UFO. They were all dead. So they landed like hawks, and for sure they were all wearing their suits, yeah, and to be not involved by any poisons. And they grabbed this UFO and brought it over the border to their area. Yeah, this is also a well-known case. Probably you can find this. Is it the Mexican Roswell case? I don't know. No, this is another case. But you can find lots of stuff about this crashed UFO close to the U.S. border in Mexico online as well. So now I'm sending you a pic from from what we were talking about before. This is a Mayan artifact, I guess. And you can see UFOs on there. You can see some strange-looking guys who looks like an alien abduction, in short words. There's some human-looking guy on a table, and some alien-looking guys standing around that table, doing something to this person. Yeah, and it is an old artifact that directly depicts what we have from the abduction cases from nowadays.
Yeah, just a second. I'll bring it up on the screen here. No, you haven't sent me it. You haven't sent me anything.
Yeah, it's take a few seconds. So, if you want, do you want to present this video on YouTube, or what you are recording now? Do you want to present?
I'm recording this directly to my computer.
Okay.
But I will. This will never be released, really. I mean, maybe some clips of it, but not really.
It's just for the first test, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I was asking this is, if so, yeah, we could place all these links what we are talking about below
in the description. Yeah.
Description of the video, which would be a list then for.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, yeah, it would be like at least like 20 to 30 books, and
it goes from here to Saturn, maybe.
Yeah, another thing when you were talking about that is that I wanted to bring up is people who are fascinated by magic and spiritual connections, and I don't know what you would call it, like channeling and
remote viewing.
Yeah, that not so much remote viewing, but I want more like esoteric practices. They are unknowingly worshipping entities that actually do exist, that are aliens, but they are not gods.
Yeah.
And that is something that I wanted to bring up. I don't know how
but
much you know about that.
we know about a few persons from the music industry, like Lady Gaga and others, who claim that they sold their soul to these Illuminati, or to the ones whom they are working with, therefore for being successful and making lots of money. Yeah. And we see all these signs in Hollywood movies almost everywhere, yeah, and all this stuff hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, I
So
mean, if you just get like a basic, like really basic, like symbology knowledge, or just like I don't know how to call it, like really basic, like recognize some symbols and stuff that they use in movies, you really start to see the world in a new perspective.
yeah,
Because you can't avoid it. Like it's everywhere. All the movies, all TV series, in the
mhm.
books, in even like on the street, uh, in a lot of cities. Um, I don't know. I don't know if you could say that it's all the cities, but I mean because like of course a lot of different countries and regions have different symbology
most
symbology that means different things in different countries.
yeah,
But mostly,
most,
yeah. Go on.
mostly in us so-called world, Western world, yeah, or on the northern hemisphere, yeah, and they wanna. That's why they wanna invade all these other countries as well as they did in Northern Africa. Yeah, next one maybe will be Iran, Iran, because they're now not involved in all their stuff. Yeah, Iran has no Rothschild bank. Yeah, like a few other countries as well. North Korea has no Rothschild bank, and some countries in Africa, and they will be the next ones on the list of these.
For example, on that topic, Iceland recently kicked out their Rothschild banks, or basically all all banks that wasn't nationally connected to them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like, do you see any kind of retaliation or some kind of um, retaliation or rebuttal from the Rothschild banks and the like the banking families in general?
Yeah, we know that Iceland has arrested a few of their bankers in these days after the um, collapse that we had in when was it? 2000? I can't remember. I can't remember.
I can find it out just a second.
2010, around 2010, where we had this so-called economy crisis. Yeah, where this was it the Lehman Brother Bank? Yeah, crashed, and Iceland is a very good country, and Stuart Swerdlow said it very good in his last. Was it Stuart Swerdlow? Um, or no, it was Simon Parkes from the UK. He said that the spiritual center on this planet is in Norway, yeah, or let me say, in whole Scandinavia, which Iceland also belongs to, yeah, to this high spirit uh, uh, area. So some parts of northern England as well.
Yeah, it looks like in 2015, 2016, around there.
Hmm?
2015 and 2016 is when this Iceland thing happened.
Okay, okay. Yeah, the crisis was a bit earlier.
Yeah.
But they had their consequences. Yeah. So I'm a fan of Iceland because they have no military as far as I know. For sure, the US has an eye on it for many years. Yeah. And to be some kind of guide for them or protector of them, even if they don't need any protection, because they have a population from about 300,000 people in Iceland. Yeah, it's as much as in my hometown here where I live. Yeah, so they have a really small population around. Like I said, 300,000 people are living there
Three
only.
as of 2000 as of June 11th, 2019, the current population in Iceland is 340,000 people.
I don't have to Google all this stuff because I'm old school. It's all
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So um,
I thought it was less, but
it's a very small. Obviously, it's a very small population. Yeah, and they have lots of volcanic activity. They are producing all their energy from this volcanic stuff. Let's say it like this. And
yeah. Are there any extraterrestrial or UFO activity that you know about in
in Iceland,
Iceland?
oh no, not really. We know that volcanoes are somehow entrances or exits from to bases from the inner Earth. Yeah, like we see on the most famous spot about that is the Popocatépetl volcano in Mexico. Yeah, where we have lots of videos from cylinder cylinder type ships flying into the volcano or coming out of it. Yeah, and these are not hoaxes because they have webcam directed there. They are presenting all this stuff on the news. Yeah. So looks like volcanoes are somehow used by people or by aliens with bases underneath the surface.
Well, I can buy the story that there are bases or some kind of like entrance to some kind of a base, but I do not buy that that the volcanoes actually go so deep into the Earth's core that it actually goes into the inner Earth realm.
Yeah, okay. But probably for them it's easier to through magma with their ships than through solid rock. Probably. Yeah. I have seen videos from ships who go through solid rocks, and we have a very good case about this from it's called the friendship case in Italy. It's been in the 50s, and I'm sending you also a link to this because you have to watch this. This is very interesting. Yeah. Where there were where some 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 Italians had contact to two extraterrestrial beings looking like humans. Yeah. One was about 2 meter and 50 tall, yeah, and the other one was rather small, maybe 1 meter and 50 or something like that. So two really different looking human-like guys, yeah, had made some kind of a contract with humans for some stuff that they needed. Yeah, what kind of stuff I don't know. Some to maybe to produce something, and they gave them money or gold or something like that, and uh, they 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 met at some point with a lorry, yeah, and placed it there, and 5 minutes later the whole lorry was emptied without any person working on it because they teleported all this stuff out this lorry into the ship maybe, and then they also told that these guys were able to somehow manipulate the rock or mountain, that the stone uh, went into some kind of a molten form, yeah, so that it went somehow transparent, and they just could fly with their ship into this mountain. And when they were into that, the rock turned back into its original form. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's like several different ways you could explain that, right? Like either they could manipulate the actual matter
Yeah.
in the rock, or it could be a hologram which looked, feel, and like it presented as solid matter, but could in some specific area be modulated to be translucent or I don't know what the word is for traveling through solid matter, but
Oh, it's good.
transient, I think the word is, but I don't know. But yeah,
But
and also
every
that brings me up to something. That doesn't mean that they actually do have some kind of code or some kind of morals that they live by. So because they could easily have just stolen whatever they needed from us.
yeah,
So
and
and like
yeah, sure, sure. Um, it In this case, this also talked about, what in German, what is it? Abortals, when some people meditating on a table. Yeah, in some cases, um, things are falling out from the air. Yeah,
yeah
maybe flowers or coins or papers or something like that. I don't know the German word we say. I guess it's abortal in English. I don't know, but you know what I mean, yeah.
a porter.
Things that appear out of thin air, yeah. And a very nice documentary about that is the skull experiments. Probably you have seen this, the afterlife investigations, yeah, when they were meditating in their cellar for many years and had many experiences with hands appearing, with, um, with crystals appearing, first solid that we can grab them, then they make these crystals unsolid, so you can just you can't grab it anymore. Showing some things that they were able to have. Haven't you seen this soul experiments?
About what?
The skull, the
Skull. Skull? No,
skull.
I haven't heard that before. No.
Yeah, telling you all this stuff done when we finished our, or I can do this probably now. It's just a second. So these are I'm sending you 3 videos now. The skull experiment, then what we are talking about, the friendship case in Italy from the 50s, and the Peter Moon lecture about the Putchegi Mountains and what's going on there. Because these are 3 very important cases that everyone who wants to look deeper into the subject has to have a look at.
Are there any other subjects that you study other than ufology?
Yeah, history for sure.
So let's move on to around the First World War and the Second World War, because that's when really UFO activity picked up in history, right?
Yeah, okay. In the Second World War, we all know of the so-called Foo Fighters. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, these balls of light who were reported by many pilots. Yeah,
Yeah, and like a lot of the reported sightings were like the United or the Allies, and then it was called the Allies were thinking that this was other countries' crafts or technology,
yeah, they thought,
and then after the war they were scared shitless because they found out that these wasn't created by Germany's
yeah,
black projects and stuff, and it wasn't
uh,
created by any other country, and it
yeah,
scared the shit
first,
out of the whole world and almost caused a nuclear disaster.
yeah, first they thought this is German technology because Hitler was talking about the so-called Wunderwaffe many times, or wonder weapon. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would bring us the victory in the war. And a very, very good reported case is 1942 in Los Angeles. Yeah,
Los Angeles.
where 1942 Los Angeles, where there were several ships, or at least one UFO hovering.
Battle
Uh,
of Los Angeles.
yeah, yeah. You don't know about that? Sure, you know.
Yeah, I do. I just you only said 19. You only said 1942. So
1942 Los Angeles UFO battle, and they were firing on this UFO who hovered there for a longer time. There were hundreds or thousands of witnesses. Some of these witnesses came to death from all these rockets they fired towards this ship and came down to the ground. Yeah, pieces of these rockets, and some of these people who were watching were hit. yeah, by this stuff. This messenger will not open and will not open. They want to keep me away from sending all the secret stuff. Like, oh, I have to open this again. So this is probably the best UFO case from the Second World War. What happened in LA in 1942. Yeah, and one of the eyewitnesses of this case was uh, this guy who died recently, who wrote a book, and the one who created these models of these ships. I have so many names in my brain. Um, he's been 93 years old, and he was involved in the secret and all the secret stuff because of these authentic models from ships.
Apparently, about 8 to 10 tons of ammunition was used in that battle.
Yeah. Like I said, they fired all they had towards these UFOs. Yeah, and what I heard a couple of days ago that they were able to bring two of those ships down. Yeah, and but as the Second World War was ongoing, they had other problems than to have a deeper look inside what this stuff is, or try to back engineer this technique. Yeah, and they started having a deeper look at these ships after the Second World War. Yeah, together with this German scientist, I'm sure project Paperclip. Tompkins is his name.
William Tompkins, yeah.
He was an eyewitness of this battle in 42 in LA. Yeah. When he was a child.
Well, I think a lot of people. I think it was seen by the whole county, or the whole state, basically.
It's been in the newspapers the next day or the next days. Yeah, and like I said, some people even were killed from the debris that fell down from the sky from all this ammunition they fired towards towards these ships.
And resulting from all of this confusion about who the aliens were, or the extraterrestrials were, or where these crafts came from. That's what really started the whole uh, let's say underground government for the first time, or not 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 really starting the underground government, but starting to make everything like more selective and more secret.
Yeah, like we all know, the NSA was founded 1947, I guess. Yeah, short time after the Second World War. And for sure, they knew it was necessary to build some underground facility They started in the Second World War, I guess, with all that stuff. And and as we all know, they have more than 100 underground facilities now in the US who are all connected with tunnels, yeah, with railways, and not only there, but also in Australia, because the US and the Australians are running a secret base in the center of Australia, which is a very remote area where no one is around. It's called Pine Gap.
Pine Gap,
Yeah,
yeah, I've heard
yeah,
about that.
and it's hundreds of miles from the town away from the next town, so you will not find it even if you know where it is. And this is a very good known facility in Australia, which is a common thing between the US and Australia, and that so-called the Big Five. Yeah,
Yeah, the
or
Five Eyes, it's called in the
or
intelligence community.
Big Five, which is Australia,
Australia,
New
Great Britain, United States, France, and
Zealand,
New Zealand.
like
Yeah.
New Zealand is also part. So, and they are working really close together in all these subjects.
And since we know that some, or at least, we don't really know, but several races or extraterrestrial races, to be clear, are working with the United States government to develop technology, which we have ample evidence of, or we don't have actually evidence of it, but we have witness testimony from people who work, or from scientists who worked with these extraterrestrials.
Yeah, from Dan Beispiel, for example, from Dan Burrish, for example,
Yeah.
Who worked together with extraterrestrial from Clifford Stone, yeah, for example, and from many others as well. The former Ministry of Defense from Canada, Paul Hellyer, is talking about the United States working together with extraterrestrials for decades. Yeah, and he's also over 90 years old. I guess he's been over 20 years the former Ministry of Defense in Canada. Yeah, and when he retired, he studied some stuff he was sent when he was active, but he had no time to have a look at. He said, and he wrote a book about UFOs, and he's also telling about all these bank corruption and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, basically what happened with the Canadian defense minister was that he didn't know that he had access to that type of information before. I think it was like the last 5 or 6 months of his term.
Oh, it was a bit earlier. It was the last few years of his term. Yeah.
Yeah, something like
And
that. Yeah.
yeah. It was, but it was at the end of his career for sure.
And that's when he started to write this book, because he was so shocked that why would nobody tell him that, you know, we
Yeah,
were dealing with stuff that.
it, it all started with that one of his friends sent him the book from Lieutenant Corso the day after. Yeah, and I guess that's in the first book that he read about all this stuff. Yeah, that's what he wants to say. and he almost fell off his chair reading stuff. So now
but let's see. We are starting to see now in movies and like Hollywood productions and like TV series that they're kind of preparing us for the possibility of I don't know, hyper technology or like very 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 advanced technology, right?
yeah, all these Hollywood movies are part of the so-called soft disclosure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and first they are selling us all this stuff that's science fiction. Yeah, and you've just got to cut this fiction out and leave the science.
Yeah, but there's also something very scary about it. Like when you know about how Hollywood has used mind control techniques, like throughout history. Like basically all the movies are filled with mind control triggers and programming. But when they when they push propaganda about extraterrestrials or hyper advanced technology in that context, it also makes it a very very powerful propaganda tool to prepare us into thinking certain things about certain races or certain things about extraterrestrials and how they operate.
Yeah, yeah. One of the best examples, I guess, it's Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
well,
been
I guess that's a very, very like soft version or very like
that's one of the best case movies about this. Yeah,
yeah, that's like
and
on a best case scenario. Yeah,
it's been in 1977. You know, uh, by Steven Spielberg. And then later he made this E.T. movie, which went very famous. Yeah. And I guess that was the most visited movie ever when it came out. E.T. Yeah. And okay, this is all kind. It all belongs to this soft disclosure that we have for many decades now. And I remember this is called the worst Hollywood movie ever, and this is Plan 9 from Outer Space, and that's been in the 50s, maybe 50s, 60s. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that movie. It's really horrible, but it's about flying saucers and extraterrestrials, and this is a very bad movie. but they came out with this stuff in the 50s and 60s.
yeah.
So
And let's go on to another subject. For example, ghosts or spirits. Um, those are also an aspect of extraterrestrial or extra dimensional communication.
yeah,
I don't know if you want to, if you have anything to say about that.
Yeah, okay. If this UFO subject and aliens.
You know, like the ghost spirits and aliens go together. They are the same thing, basically.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, they are individual persons, but it's the same thing.
First of all, we have to know that there are many different dimensions who are directly next to each other. Yeah, not only dimensions but also timelines. Yeah,
Yeah.
and how can I say? We know that all our human bodies, or all what we know as matter here in our realm, is made of atoms. Yeah. So, but an atom is 99.999% empty space. Yeah. There's a little proton in the middle and a few electrons cycling around. Can you still hear me? You went into the light. Don't go away. I want you to stay here in this dimension. You disappeared into the light.
Yeah, I was just going for a smoke.
Okay.
I'm hiding my web camera from the recording now. So. But yeah, just go on about what you were saying.
So I was at the point where everything what we know in our dimension is matter, yeah? And it's all made of atoms, yeah, even our own bodies, everything. So, but an atom, 90.999% empty space. There's a little a proton in the middle, or a neutron, and a few electrons are cycling around, yeah. But it's all most of it is empty space, yeah. And all what we are talking about here is this 0.00001% that we can see, that we can experience, yeah. And the main part, these 99.99%, is not much talked about. So actually, everything that we see is empty space. Yeah? Or what we believe is matter. Yeah? Is 99% let me say dark matter or empty space, whatever you want to call it. So we have to start to give this 99% more attention. Yeah, we've got to start to give this 99% more attention than to this 0.001%, what we are doing for thousands of years now. Yeah, because that is much more worse talking about this other stuff that we don't know what it is. Yeah, this empty space inside these atoms. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah, let's move on to.
we believe that we are solid, that we are matter. Yeah, but actually we are not. We are mostly empty space.
Yeah. Let's change gears a little bit and talk about like highly spiritual stuff in relation to extraterrestrials.
Okay.
So, for example, recently there was a TEDx talk where a doctor was hypothesizing that all of our reality is not real. It's all conceived by the mind, and nothing of the things that we think are solid objects or whatever the world around us is not actually what it is. It's just the image that we are being, the image that we or our mind is creating out of the senses or the input from the senses.
Yeah.
And you could really argue that nothing is really the way that we think that it is, and it's all really happening. We are all really just hallucinating our reality.
Yeah. This is all called so-called border science. And border sciences are not are called border sciences only because they are not financed by institutions to have a deeper look at. It's not that it's not scientific. It is for sure scientific, but it's not financed by the governments or by other institutions. That's why they call it border science. It's sad, and I finished the book of my friend Dieter Perez now, which he sent me for free, and lots of stuff he's talking about in that as well. He's talking about Toxoplasma gondii, for example, this parasite that about 50% of all the people carry around already inside them, not knowing of it.
They carry what inside them?
It's a parasite called Toxoplasma gondii.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And probably you've heard of it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of parasites. I mean, there are even extra-dimensional parasites that are around every. You could probably maybe 1 in 3 persons has a in the whole world has some kind of attachment or some kind of spirit following them.
Yeah, for sure.
And they wouldn't know it at all. And it could be interfering with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they couldn't really interact with this reality, they could through your mind or your decisions influence you in a way that would change your reality to their liking.
Yeah, these are so-called archons. Yeah, probably.
Well, I didn't mean any specific thing, but
No, these entities are known as so-called archons, and it's going back to all the Gnostics stuff. Yeah, not Gnosticism, or is it in English? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the right word. Yeah, Gnosticism.
Gnosticism. Those guys in former times, they wrote about these beings, let me say beings, even if they are not, if they don't have a physical body. And because hundreds and hundreds of years ago, these people knew about these non-physical beings. They were really involved with them more than we know about. Probably they know about them than we know about now. And I've studied all kinds of stuff from them as well. Really interesting. And probably this Toxoplasma gondii parasite belongs to these archons, or is some kind of a tool for them. For tool that they use to manipulate us in our dimension.
Yeah, like a bypass from the dimensional separation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what else? We've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes now.
Hmm?
1 hour 20 minutes.
Yeah, we covered a lot of stuff again.
Well,
now you've got 3 really good videos now that I've sent you about the skull experiments, which are very interesting, and the Peter Moon and the friendship case.
oh yeah, the Peter Moon thing. That I saw that while I know you sent me that sometime earlier.
Yeah.
So let's see. I really just don't know where to.
Yeah, probably we can finish this recording now
Okay.
and go